welcome back to the channel. It's Evelyn here, and a huge thank you to each and every single one of you for your love and support for this, my very own little creative corner of the internet. Now, my friends, you can probably see and no doubt hear that I'm definitely starting to feel a little bit more like myself, and I'm feeling better with each and every passing day. So fingers crossed I'll be back to my old self really soon. You can probably see as well that I am taking full advantage of wearing the loungewear that I have created over the past few years, because I'm trying to take things a little bit easier and learn to relax. Promising my friends, I am trying my best to take things a little bit easier. Now, if you do celebrate Valentine's, my friends, I hope you had a wonderful day, and I'm sending you all lots of love. Now, back to the important things, my friends. This week, I'm finally creating that 1940s inspired nightgown, and I'm so incredibly excited for this, because this is something that I have coveted in my me-made wardrobe for years and years and years. So, without further ado, my wonderful friends, grab a cuppa and a smile. Let's get to some pattern drafting and sewing. And while you're at it, it only takes a few seconds, my friends. If you're watching this and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Hit that all important subscribe button. Come on, let's get creating. So first, my friends, let's revisit those inspiration images. The nightgown that we're going to create today is inspired by the stunning nightdresses of the late 30s and 40s. Full-length flowing skirts which showcase the waist and floated seamlessly to the floor. Bodices were often sleeveless, with gathered bust lines and shaped midriffs, accompanied sometimes by separate straps gathered into the bust pieces. The resulting garments create a sultry yet elegant nightwear style that I've been coveting for quite some time. A style that I hope my own version and design, seen here, can successfully capture, with that full-length skirt, a separate shaped lower midriff piece, gathered bust and gathered straps. So let's get drafting. For this project, grab your bodice and skirt blocks, and you'll find links in the description box, my friends, and a card above to the playlist so that you can create your own to your own measurements, my friends. And I've created little versions as usual to show you how to draft today's pattern. Here is the front bodice, front skirt, back bodice and back skirt. To begin, we'll start on the bodice, my friends, with the front piece first. I'm going to move the bust dart fullness into the waist dart, which will form the fullness that we can then gather to create that gathered bust style. So grabbing a ruler and a pen, I'm marking in my bust apex point before drawing lines through the centre of both of the darts to this point. Taking those scissors, I cut along those lines to just before the apex point to create a hinge, which allows me to close the bust dart, effectively moving that fullness to the waist dart like so. Magic. Then it's time for style lines. To begin, I draw a guideline from the centre of the shoulder to the apex point. This line will also help me later when I draft a piece for the straps. To create the lower bodice piece, a curved style line is drawn below the bust from centre front to the side seam, curving upwards to the centre front to create that stunning shaped V midriff from the inspiration images. To ensure that the lower bodice piece will sit under your bust, you can plot your bust depth measurement, which is the measurement of your apex to underbust, along the dart line, and place your style line on or below that point. Drawing in this style line can prove a little tricky as we have that gap created by the dart, but have faith my friends, you can do this. And grab that trusty ruler and measure if you need to. Style line drawn, we can snip the lower pieces from the upper. Grabbing some sticky tape, join those two pieces together, removing the dart for a simple one-piece lower bodice pattern. Lower piece complete, friends. Let's now concentrate on the upper piece. Using the guideline I plotted earlier, draw in the upper style line. Once more, you can plot your bust depth up from the apex, if needed, to ensure coverage. I've come down from the edge of the arm side by an inch here, before curving a line up and into that guideline and down to the centre front to form the bust piece. The piece will then be gathered into our lower piece. Keep this upper piece to the side for later because we'll use it to help draft the straps. Now let's move on to that back piece. Come down from the arm side edge by an inch at the side seam before curving a line out to centre back to create our upper style line and the effective top part of the back bodice. And I'm going to continue the two-piece bodice on the back also, as it's very flattering and visually appealing. So grabbing my drafted lower front piece, I'm lining it up at the side seam of the back piece so that I can draw on my lower style line to match the front. And I'm labelling those centre fronts and centre backs straight away with fold marks so that I don't forget their layout, because a lot of these pieces look quite similar. Cut out those pieces, keeping hold of the discarded upper piece, once again for later to help us with those straps. Grab that sticky tape again, my friends, and eliminate the dart fullness for one-piece pattern pieces. We're going to make this nightgown as easy to construct and sew as possible. And the pieces that you're creating, my friends, will definitely be less fiddly than these tiny versions I'm working with here. Now, remember those discarded upper pieces? Well, grab those, my friends. Repeat that guideline that we created on the front piece, drawing the centre of the shoulder line to the top of the old dart on our back piece. Line those two pieces up along the shoulder lines and measure this guideline, which gives us the required length of our strap. What a neat little trick. For the strap width, I've chosen 3 inches, which will be gathered down to 1 inch. and the straps will be inserted into the bodice where the darts originally were, here on the upper back piece and at the guideline on the upper front piece. Now the skirt. Grab your skirt block pieces and we're going to start by dividing each piece into 3, and we're going to do the same on the front and back. So for ease, I'm going to demonstrate just using the back. Divide the blocks into 3 and grabbing those trusty scissors, cut from the hem almost to the waistline to create those hinges that we're so fond of here on the channel when we're pattern drafting. These hinges allow us to add fullness to our skirt. So grab some extra pattern paper so that we can add that fullness, being sure that the centre front and centre back of our skirt pieces stay straight to allow us to still cut these pieces, if needed, on the fold. This technique to add fullness to a pattern is known as slash and spread. And notice too, my friends, that because we didn't cut through the waistline of our piece, the waistline has not been affected. As with the bodice, I'm going to remove the darts on the skirt pieces to make this project as easy to construct as possible. To do so, I'm simply removing the fullness from the side seam like so. An important note here, my friends, this block is drafted to just below the knee, so it needs to be extended to create our full length skirt. Instead of extending it on the pattern piece, however, I tend to extend it when I cut out my fabric, using a tape measure to extend the piece to the floor. It saves paper too, my friends. Brilliant. Now repeat the same process for the front skirt piece too. And here is my completed pattern for the 1940s inspired nightgown. The upper bodice front piece, which will be gathered along that lower edge to fit into the lower bodice front piece. And then the bodice back, comprising the upper back and the lower back. The skirt front, the skirt back, and our strap. Time to get sewing, and in the interests of following my own advice, I'm making a mock-up to test this new pattern before cutting into that stunning velvet for my final version. And for that mock-up, I have this beautiful light blue French terry. Pieces all cut out, I'm making the straps first. Cut out 2 pairs, placing each pair together right sides facing, before pinning and sewing all along the long sides. Turn them right side out and press them before sewing some long basting stitches across each short end, closing the ends and also giving us some gathering stitches which we can use later when we attach these straps to our bodice. Speaking of the bodice, that's our next step, my friends. Sew gathering stitches along the lower edge of the bodice upper front pieces, and I've cut out 2 sets here, one for the lining and one for the outer. Then sew those little centre fronts on both your sets. Then pin and sew the upper bodice front to the lower bodice front, and I really took my time here to match those 2 contrasting shapes. You can clip into your seam allowances too, friends, if you need to make this step easier. Those straps are then basted to one of the front bodices, just so I don't forget them later. Bodice back now, pinning and sewing the upper and lower pieces together. Then the side seams. Lining and outer bodice layers complete, it's time to join them together all around the neckline, right sides together, being sure that those straps are sandwiched in between at both the front and back to install them as I go. And my bodice then looked like this. I love it. I used a narrow zigzag throughout sewing the main body of this nightgown to hopefully retain the stretch that is present in this gorgeous terry fabric, which is also so unbelievably snuggly and soft, my friends. I'm rather excited about this nightgown, even if it is the mock-up version. On to the skirt, which just involves those long side seams, creating this. A rather full skirt, and now I'm even more excited. Pinning and sewing the bodice and skirt together at the waistline is the next step, attaching the skirt to the outer bodice layer only. This will allow me to fold the seam allowance on the lining layer to the inside of the bodice before hand stitching it neatly closed, hiding any raw edges. Lovely. And here is the resulting nightgown. I was utterly in love with this, my friends. It looks so great here on Betty. Now, although Betty is a bit smaller than me in the bust, and this mock-up version does fit me nicely, the side seams were gaping just a little bit. So it's time to adapt that pattern to make the final version just right. Grabbing the bodice upper front piece, I shaved 1/2 inch off at the upper side edge, tapering to the lower edge, as you can see here in yellow pen. Now, taking in this side seam, my friends, will give me a better fit, but since my final velvet fabric only has 10% stretch, which is significantly lower than this French terry, it is going to mean that I will need to add a zip in the final version, or this nightgown will never get over my shoulders. You win some, you lose some. Luckily, I like inserting zips. Time to cut into that fabric. This velvet doesn't shed too much, which is a nice added bonus. But my friends, velvet can dull scissors pretty quickly, so be sure to keep an eye on those precious dressmaking shears and get them sharpened when you need to. We don't want to be chewing up that fabric now, do we, my friends? Velvet piece is all cut out. The final dusky pink version of my 1940s inspired nightgown is created in the same way as the mock-up, with the addition of that invisible zip inserted into the left side. So finally, my friends, after what seems like forever, it's time to reveal the vintage inspired nightgown of my dreams. Phew, my friends. So finally I have that much coveted 1940s style vintage inspired nightgown in my Me Made wardrobe, and I absolutely love it. Yes, I'm still wearing it now, and actually I think I might start to live in things like this because it feels fabulous on. I love the fit, I love the design, and even more, I love how this garment makes me feel. Really makes me feel stylish and elegant, even though, yeah, I'm still lounging around the house, drinking a cup of teas and eating toast, but makes me feel so glamorous. Now, my friends, next week we're going to be completing this velvet vintage inspired capsule nightwear wardrobe by creating the 30s and 40s style robe of my dreams, also called dressing gowns or housecoats. But until then, my friends, take care and be safe. Bye, friends. Check out Luna as well. She really wants me to be quiet so she can have a nap.